Hello everyone, my name is Hasneet and today I'm going to show you how to create a to-do application using Android Studio. So first of all, go to your Android Studio, click on File, New Project, add the name of the project, click Next, select the minimum SDK and click Next, and finally select the empty activity and click Next and let the Gradle build. Once the Gradle will be built, you will see something like this, and go to your layout activity underscore main. Here you don't, first of all, you don't need this text view, remove it. And now we are going to add a list view because we will be having a list of items in our to-do application. So I'm going to define the width of the view as match parent and the height as match parent. Also, I'm going to give an ID to this list view, and I will call this ID list view. Now, what I want is I want a button which on pressing that button it would invoke another activity in which it will provide user an editable field in which the user can actually put in the message for the task or the task that he wants to perform, and then save that message. After saving that message, it should appear here in the list. So this is the main task. So for creating a button, I'm going to create a floating action button. To do that, we have to go into build.gradle and add this line to your dependencies. The logic behind this line is that the floating action button is a part of design library, so we have to import it so that we can use its functions. To add the floating action button, we have to write down in the activity underscore main android.support.design widget and floating action button. Now what do we have to do is we have to give this button a width which would be wrap content, and a height which again would be wrap content. Now after doing this, you can visualize this button here in the preview section, but it's appearing in the wrong place. I want the button to be at the bottom right corner of the screen. So first of all, I will give this button an ID. I will call this fab for floating action button. Again, to align this to the bottom right of its parent, which is in this case the relative layout. So I'm going to say align parent bottom and set it to true. Again, I would say align parent right, and set it to true as well. I'm going to give this an on-click listener, and the method which will be invoked would be on-click. This tells that whenever this button will be pressed, this method on-click will be called. And I want an image to be loaded within this button, so I'm going to my image asset. I'll copy this add plus icon and paste it in here into the drawable folder. And I would say Android source drawable add underscore plus. Now I think this is done. Okay, now with this being said, when we press this button, we want another activity to be launched, and we have to define the layout for that activity as well. So click new layout resource file. I'm going to call this file to do layout. You can call it whatever you want, and in this I want to give the user an edit text field with a width of match parent and a height of 0 dp, because I'm going to use weights, and I'm going to give a weight of 6, I'll give this an ID called message. I'll give it a hint for the user to know what to do with this editable text field. Say write your message, and I would set the text size to 20 sp. I think it's reasonable enough to for every device, and I would set the gravity to top so that it appears at the start of the page or the start of the activity. Now I want to create a button with a width of match pair and the height of 0 dp again, because I'm using weights. Again, it's important to notice that the layout, in this case the orientation of the layout, is vertical, and this is why I'm able to set height as 0 dp. So here the weight would be 1. This means that the button would take 1/7 of a screen size, and the editable text field will take 6/7 of the screen. I would say text as save, and Android text size 20 sp would be enough for this, and I will give this button an on-click listener, which will be called save button clicked. So whenever this save is clicked, this method would be invoked. And what this method would do is basically take the text from this area and pass that text to this item 1, and on the second time to the item 2, third time item 3, so on and so forth. So with this being said, we are done with our layouts and we can move on to our main activity. I'm going to create a list view object, an array list, which is a generic type, so we are going to pass string, array list, an array adapter, which is again a generic type, so we are going to pass string, because our array list is a string of text, obviously. So since we have declared them, we need to define them as well. So listview equals listview. I'm going to typecast this to listview because the findView by ID function doesn't return. findView by ID function returns a view, but it doesn't tell which view. But since we know that the ID associated with this list view in the drop-down menu is corresponding to a list view, so we are explicitly typecasting it, and this is perfectly normal. Array list equals new array list, and array adapter equals new array adapter. It takes 3 arguments. First is the context, so we're going to give this. Secondly, we are going to give a resource, which would be which could be anything, but in this case I'm going to use android.r.layout.simpleListItem1. What this will do is, whenever I add one item to the list view, it will set the layout of all the other items, which would resemble just like this. And lastly, I have to pass the array list like this. But there is no link between listview and array adapter till now, so we are going to establish a link between both of them by saying set adapter on listview and passing the array adapter as its argument. And we are done. Now what we have to do is we have to define our method on click, which will take a view type argument, and we have to import this argument as well. So we are done by pressing Alt and return. Now what this method will do, whenever we press this button here, this onClick method will be called and it will invoke another activity. So to invoke another activity, we should create another activity. So go to new, create activity, empty activity, and you can name whatever you like. I'm going to call it edit field class. Click finish. I'm not going to use this layout because I have defined my own layout, and therefore this is of no use, and I'm going to delete it. Now what this method will do is create an intent equals new intent, and intent dot set class main activity dot this, and edit field class dot class. And now what we have to do is we have to start activity for results. This takes two arguments. First is the intent itself, and second is a request code. This method, what it does, it will invoke this activity edit field class, but when this activity gets executed completely, it will return something back to this main class, main activity. And to identify that which class has responded, since many classes can respond to the main activity, we need to send a request code, which should be unique for every activity. So we are going to create a new Java class. I'm going to call it intent constants, and I'm going to say public final static string intent request code, and I'm going to give a value 1. Oh, it's not string, it's integer. Takes an int value. What's wrong? Okay, so I'm going to pass this request code. And now what happens when this activity gets completely executed? It will call a method called onActivityResult. Now we'll come back to this method, but first of all we have to complete this class. What this class would do, we will be getting to this class, and when we come to this class, we will be having a screen like this, and we will type the message here. As soon as we click the save button, that message should be copied and be passed to the main activity and should be added into the list items. So with that in mind, we are going to create a method called public void save button clicked, and this will also have a view, and we have to import it as we have done. Now we have to create a string object name. I will name it message text equals edit text find view by id r.id dot message. Now again, since find view by id doesn't know what type of view it is returning, so but we know that this is a message, so this is an edit text field, so we are typecasting it to edit text, and then whatever we type there within that text, we are going to get that text and convert it to string. Now if in case the user has not entered anything in trying to save that, we should not allow him to do such type of implementation. So if message text dot equals empty string, we are going to do nothing. Else, if there is something within that message, we are going to call an intent equals new intent, and we will be passing that intent. Now this put extra method takes it works like a hash map. It takes a key value pairs. The key is always a string and the value could be anything. So now this key should be unique and should match to where the intent is being passed. So in that case, if we want to make sure that we don't type it wrong, I'm going to initialize it here in the intent constant. So I'm going to call this intent underscore message field equals message underscore field. You can give whatever name you want, but it should be unique. Keep that in mind. And I will be passing that message field, and with that message field key I'm going to pass a value which would be the message text. Now I'm going to give a set result. Now again, this takes two values. First is the result code and the second is the intent data. For the result code, it takes the result code also should match where it's being passed. In this case, it's being passed here, so it should match. You will see in a couple of minutes that what I'm talking about. So I'm going to initialize that too here, and maybe I should keep it with this static int intent underscore result underscore code equals 1, and I'm going to pass that dot result code, and I'm going to pass the intent along with that. Now at the last I'm going to call finish so that this activity gets destroyed and we get back to the main activity, and this method is being called. Now in this method, if the result code which is being passed from the edit field class having a value 1 equals intent constant dot request code which also has a value 1, you see right here, if both of these match, then we know that this activity has responded because we set the request code for this activity as 1 and the result code for this activity as 1. So it's definitely show that that activity has responded for this particular intent call within the onClick method. Now, if that in that case, what we need to do, we need to create a string object called message text. I did I write it right? Yes. And I'm going to say the message text equals data dot get string extra and the name of the key associated with the value, which is the message field. Now I'm going to say my array list to add that message text, and finally I'm going to say that array adapter, the list has been modified and you should notify that that dataset has changed. So I'm going to call that method over array adapter. And with this being said, I think we can try running our program and it should work maybe. Let's see what happens. Okay, so activity has launched successfully, and we click this plus icon. It should take me to the next screen, and I type the message hello and save it. It should get back to the previous window and save that, and it did. So it means that this is working perfectly and we can move forward. Now what happens if I write this message incorrect and I want to modify it but not to delete? In that case, I would be clicking on this method and editing it. So to accomplish that, I would set onItemClickListener on this list view. It takes an argument of onItemClickListener type, and in this I am going to call an intent equals new intent. In this case, this intent also should call another activity. So I'm going to create another activity, an empty activity, which would be named I guess edit message class. I think this name would be perfect for this type of class, and yeah, But I don't want this class to use this layout again. I want it to use the layout which I have defined, so this is of no use again, and hence has to go. Boom, gone. Now I want this intent to set class from main activity dot this to edit message class dot class, and I want to pass intent dot put extra. What I want to pass is the data within that array location or that list. In this case, I want to pass hello to that next window so that whenever I click this, the message should not get destroyed in that text field. And I could edit that and save it again. You'll see what I mean. So this takes two arguments. First is the intent, and so that I'm going to create another intent. I would name it public final static string intent underscore message data equals message underscore data, and I'm going to pass it here message data, and with that I'm going to pass the actual data within that message, I mean within that list view. How I am going to fetch it: array list dot get position. Position represents the element which I have clicked on. From here I get the position dot to string. Also, I need to pass the location at which the element was present, since if I don't know the location, when I save it back and send it back to this main screen, I would not be able to put it right at the place where it should be. So put extra, and I'm going to create another intent, name the final static string. I would name it item position. Then you can call it whatever you like, but it should be unique. Keep that in mind always. Intent constant dot item position, and I'm going to pass simply the position. I'm going to say start activity for result. Again, I have to pass the intent and a request code. Again, this request code must be different from the previous one. As I've told, if these two would be same, then in the on activity result method, they both will collide, and you don't want to do that. Of course, if they both would collide, same code block would be running for them, so we have to give some different value. Also, we would be needing a intent underscore result underscore code underscore 2 for identifying which class has responded within this on activity result method, as we have done before. So I'm going to pass this request code, and we come into our message class. In this class, what we have to do is create a string message text and an int position. I'm sorry, and I would say intent equals get intent. I'm going to receive that intent which was passed from that main activity on item click listener method, and I'm going to say message text equals intent dot get string extra, and the name of the name of the key associated with the message. In this case, it was intent message data. And for the position, I want to say intent dot get int extra. And this takes two arguments. First is the string, which was item position, and it takes default value. That in case that no value is associated with this particular key, -1 would be assigned to position, but it won't, so don't worry. But you have to pass a default value if it does. I mean there's no value for this key. So with that being said, what we have to do next is we have to create an edit text field. I would say this field as message data, which would be equals to edit text field. And what I want to do here is I'm going to get that message, which is the edit text field again, and set the message data to the message I received, which is in this case the hi message, which would be coming up into the edit text field automatically when as soon as I press that hi button. So next is when I click the save button, what I want is I want save button clicked method to be called, and I want to import this view as I have done before. In this I would make a string object and name it changed message text, yeah, equals edit text find view by id r.id.message, and take this message content by using getText and putting it into a string and assigning it to changed message text. Finally, what I want to do, I want to launch a final intent equals new intent and pass this changed message text back to the main activity. So how do we do that? I'm going to say intent dot put extra I'm going to create a new intent constant. I would say intent underscore changed message equals static changed message, and I'm going to pass this here along with changed message, and of course I'm going to give the position back, so I can position and finally call the finish method yes, so that this activity again get destroyed and we come up here. Now in this case, this if statement would not be called because the result code is not 1 in this case, it's 2, and it doesn't match this result request code which is 1. So else I have to create else ifs. Else if result code equals intent constant dot request code 2, and we have to do something. Now what that something is, we have to well in this case I have to again set the message text to data dot getString extra intent constant dot changed message, and in this particular case that element at which we have to replace the value is not null, it is already containing some data, so we have to remove, in this case that you can see that hello is already there, so we have to remove hello and replace it with the modified data. So we need the position as well, and for that I'm going to create an integer called position which will hold the position, and I will say data.getInt extra with a string name as item position, default value -1, and finally what I want to do, I want to say ArrayList.remove the element at that position, and ArrayList.add that position. What I want to add is the message text, which is now the changed message, and finally notify my array adapter that something has changed, so you should update yourself. Now, with that being said, I think everything has set up. Now we can try running this program. I hope it should work properly. Let's see. Okay, so I press this button. I'm going to say wash the clothes, and I'm going to save it. Now again I will add another task. I'll say fill the bucket, and I'll save this as well. Now what I want to change wash the clothes to wash the shoes. You see that message is already there when I click it. I'm going to say wash the shoes. And when I save this should override that previous position's data. It doesn't. See? It doesn't. Why it's not happening? No, it's not working. Position is right. Message text. Everything is perfect. Could be the problem. Oh yes, I have figured it out. I haven't set results for this. I have to set results as the result code 2, and I want to pass the intent. So this was a problem here, and now I think it should work properly. Now if we try running it again, it should work. Wash the clothes. Save it. Now again I'm going to add another task. I'll say this task as fill the bucket. I'm going to save it as well. And finally I'm going to click wash the clothes and change this text to wash the shoes, and I did not give any space. Oh, damn it. Shoes. Now I think it should work perfectly, and it does. So this was an example of how to create a list view, how to create a to-do application. Please, if you like this video, leave your comments below, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys soon with more upcoming nice videos. Thank you very much.